Hello friends, today I'm going to show you how to implement push notification in your React Native app using the Supabase, Edge function, and webhooks. And we're going to see how AI, the AI assistant inside of Supabase, can help us a little bit to complete this task. So if you're ready, let's get in. Right here is my VS Code, and I'm going to open up the terminal so that I will run the command to actually spin up a new React Native project. And we need to go to the expo documentation. Right here, we can copy this command. I'm going to wait for a while for this project name. I'm going to provide a dot so that the project name will be the same with our project folder name, which is Awesome Edge right here. So we'll wait for a while so that this project can be spinned up for us and we'll be able to spin a local development server. Now the project is ready, and so we can start the development server by running npm start. And I can just clear the cache just in case. And yes, we can start this on the simulator by pressing I. Yes, and our project is up and running. So I'm going to put this VS Code and the simulator side by side so we can see all we're doing at once. Yeah, this is much better. Now let's go to the folders. Let's go to the app folder and go to the tabs and go to index, responsible for what we're seeing currently on the home page right here. And I'm just going to clear everything right here, so that we can have some space to do what we want to do and save. Yeah, so we just have this welcome right here. So now the next thing to do is to create a sign up page that the user is going to use to sign up on our platform. So let's go to the app folder and create a route group. I'm going to call it auth, like so. And within the auth route, I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call it signup.tsx. And we're going to have this code for the sign up and save. So what we need to do now is go to the index and then import this page right here. And we're exporting it as sign up screen down here. So let's go to the index, and just below the welcome, I'm going to have a view coming from React Native. And then within the view, I'm going to have the sign up screen and save. And yes, this is what we get. So now if we go to the sign up screen, we have the text input right here, and we have text input right here for the email and the password, and then we have the sign up button. Now currently this sign up button has no functionality, so when we click on it, nothing is going to happen. So we need to create a function and then pass the function right here to the sign up button, so that when the user clicks on the sign up button, the user will be signed up on our platform. But before we're able to do that, we need to go to supabase.com and create a project, and then we're going to be able to link to that Supabase project from within our React Native app. So let's go to Supabase. Right here we have the Supabase, and I can go to my dashboard from here. If you don't have an account with Supabase, you can create an account and you log in, and then you'll be able to go to your dashboard, and you have organizations. You can create one if you don't have. I have two organizations here, and I'm going to use the LDIX one. So within an organization, you can have different projects. So I'm going to click inside of this Awesome Edge project, and right here we have this SQL editor. So this SQL editor can help us to write SQL codes that can create tables for us, create functions and triggers and all of that. Currently for this project, we have this create table snippet code right here, and it's going to create this awesome users table with the ID field, username, email, created at, and expo push token. Later on, we're going to see what we'll be storing under the expo push token. But for now, these are the fields that we're going to have under the awesome users table. And of course, RLS is also enabled, that is role level security. And these are the policies that we have to enable the insert and update and read actions on this awesome users table. So that's what RLS is all about. It defines how users, or how people in general, are able to access the data stored inside of a database and what data they're able to access as well. So that's what we have. And right here we have a function, the handle new user function, that actually inserts the new user inside of the awesome users table each time a user signs up on our platform. When a user signs up on our platform, the user's data will be entered inside of this users table that is automatically created by Supabase. But sometimes we also want to store our own data, right? So that's why we're trying to do here. We're trying to create this function, the handle new user function, that we actually insert into the awesome users table each time a new user signs up. And we just want to insert the ID of that user and the email of that user. That's what we're going to do. And then we are now having a trigger here that will listen for when that user signs up and has the email confirmed, then the handling user function will be called. So that's what we're doing here. And before we're able to actually let users sign up with email or any other provider for that matter, such as Google, Facebook, and the rest of them, we have to enable that. So if we go to the authentication part right here and go to sign in providers, and you can see email sign up is already enabled. If you don't have it enabled, then you should enable it. And you can click on this arrow to have some settings. Right here, I've disabled confirming email, so we don't need to confirm the email before we sign the user up. We are also not having this secure email change button toggled on. So just want to be able to sign in a user, but in your real world application, this confirm email should be there so that you confirm that that email is actually legit, that it can actually be used to sign up on the platform. You don't want users signing up with fake emails and all of that. Okay, and then here we're also having the minimum password length of 6, and that's all we need. And then we can click save, and that's it. So with these settings and with the codes that we have right here inside of our SQL tab, then we'll be able to create new users on the platform. Now the next thing we need to do is to get the codes and the API keys that we'll actually be able to use to sign up our user on the platform. And if we go to the project overview right here and scroll down a bit, we'll be able to see some of the API keys that we shall be using. One is this project URL, and the other one is this API anon key. So these are the things we'll be using. Now let's go fetch the code that we'll be able to use to sign up a user on our platform. And for that, I'm going to open a new tab and go to supabase.com and then go visit the docs directly and go to start. And we can scroll down and look at the tutorials for mobile. And here we have Expo React Native. Yep. So we should find what we're looking for right here. Scroll down. We've gotten our API keys. They're going to be right here. And then initialize a React Native app. We've already done that. And then we need to install these dependencies. So we can just copy this and then go back to our VS Code and run the command to install these packages. So right here, we're going to open up the terminal. First of all, I'm going to stop the development server by pressing Ctrl+C on my keyboard and then clear the terminal and then install these packages. Now, one thing before I install these packages, sometimes depending on the version of Expo that you're using, that you've installed for your project, you may experience some dependency clashes when you install a certain package or certain packages. So you should be aware of that, and then you may have to find a way to resolve that. Sometimes it involves degrading an already installed package or upgrading another one. So whichever way, just find out, and then you're going to deal with that. All right. So hopefully we're not going to have any clash here, any dependency clashes. So let me click on enter and install the packages. All right. So like I said before, sometimes you can have these clashes, and now we're having one with this React Native context. And so we need to find a way to install this. If you look right here, it says React Native safe area context version 3.1.9 or 4.00 from this one right here. So this one is probably expecting this version of React Native safe area context. Now let's open our package.json. We can resolve this together, okay? This happens usually or sometimes depending. So let's go see the package that we have here for React Native safe area context. Okay, you can see right here, this is the one installed version 5.4.0, but here it is saying it requires 3.1.9 or 4.00 from this package right here. So what we're going to do is try to downgrade this one, and let me start by clearing up the terminal, and we can make this 4.00. You can just directly modify it right here and then save. And what we're going to do is delete this node modules and then run npm install to install all of the packages one more time. Yes, they're installed, so we can clear the terminal, and after clearing the terminal we can try to run that command one more time, and this time we're able to install the packages successfully. So always pay attention to this sort of thing. Don't let them scare you. This can happen at any time. Okay, so now we've installed these packages. Now let's get the code that will enable us to hook into our Supabase project. Clear the terminal one more time and get back to the browser. So right here, we need to copy this code right here. And we need to create a folder called lib and a file called supabase.ts and paste this right here. So this is a Supabase client that will enable us to actually call different APIs to sign up a user on our platform. For example, we could use supabase.auth.sign up a user, supabase.auth.create a user, or sign up with email, or sign in with email, and so on and so forth. So let's copy this already and head back to our VS Code. Open here, go to the app, and then create a new folder. We're going to call it lib, and then create the supabase.ts file. And right here, we're going to paste all of the codes that we just copied, and then make some adjustments. So the first one is this Supabase URL and the Supabase anon key, which we saw earlier on. So I'm just going to have this one deleted and have this one as well deleted. So let's go back to the browser and fetch the API keys that we need. So if we go to the project overview, here we can see the project URL. So we can just copy this and paste it right here for the Supabase URL, and get that of the anon key as well and paste right here. We copy this one, paste right here, and then we can save this file. So yeah, we've created our Supabase client, and we can close this one off and close this one off as well. So within the signup.tsx, we're going to create a function to sign up a user. Right here, I'm going to create a function, and we're going to hook that function up with the sign up button. So right here, have this function, and it's called sign up with email. And then right here, you can see we are waiting on supabase.auth.signup, and this Supabase is going to be coming from the lib folder that we created earlier on here. So import that, and then alert is going to be coming from React Native. And so we are waiting on supabase.auth.signup, and we'll get the email and the password and try to sign up a user. Of course, the email and password is coming from right here, from our state. And then if there is data, that means if everything went well, then we want to give an alert that says sign up successful and clear the content of the input boxes. And then if there is error, we also want to throw an alert and then log the error to the console. So that's a very simple function that we'll have right there. And then we can now go to the sign up button and hook it up right there. So we'll go to the on press and then call the sign up with email function like so, and save. So now what we need to do is to start up our development server. So we're going to say npm start and clear the cache just in case there is anything to clear in the cache. We have some warnings right here. Let's see. Okay, it's talking about this React Native safe area context again. We was expecting the latest one, but that was clashing with another package. So we'll just leave it as it is. Okay, so right here we can just reload by pressing R on the keypad. We're having this error that says unsupported top level event type and all of that. Okay, and I know this error is usually associated with versions of React Native safe area context. So remember, we changed the version from 5.4.0 to 4.00 right here inside of our package.json. So what we can do is actually change that again, 5.4.0, and see what happens. So sometimes these dependency clashes can be a little bit problematic. So I'm going to save that, and then what I'm going to do is open up the terminal and stop the server, and then I'm going to remove the node modules folder and then run npm install so that it installs all of the packages afresh. Okay, it was able to install it, so let's clear and run npm start and clear the cache, and hopefully this time there won't be any errors. We can close our package.json file right here. So what we need to do now is press I or reload to reload our application one more time. Yes, the error is gone. So sometimes it's just about deleting the node modules folder and editing the package installed in the case of a dependency clash, and then running npm install to install all of the packages one more time. So now that we've done this, we should be able to sign up our user. So we can go to the app and provide an email and then provide a password and click on sign up. All right, we're able to sign up our user and can press on OK. So that means we'll go to our Supabase project right here, and if we go to the authentication now and try to refresh, we should have a user right here. So right here we don't have any data, any user signed up currently. So let's get back to VS Code and see what has happened, and we'll begin by opening up the terminal. So right here we can see this log statement, sign up successful, but then the data we logged onto the console is null. So that means there was a problem signing up the user. And one thing I can think of is to actually check our API keys, the one we used to connect to Supabase. So let's go right here and go to the lib folder and open up the supabase.ts file and check the Supabase URL and the anon key and make sure that they are written correctly. Okay, so let's cross-check this with what we have on our Supabase project. So back to our Supabase project, let's go to the project overview and check the project URL. Yeah, it is this one. We can copy that again and cross-check properly, and then check our anon key and copy that as well and save. And just before we try the sign up function again, let's get back to our Supabase project to actually check that we run the SQL code that will help us to insert a row into our awesome users table. And here is the SQL query, and I've run this code, and it's success, no rows returned. Okay, and let's check the table editor, and yes, we have this awesome users table already. So now we can try the sign up. And I think the reason we're not able to sign up a user initially is because we did not run that query successfully. So make sure that you run the query right here so that the awesome users table can create it. Okay, now we can clear the terminal and then try sign up our user, sign up. And yes, this time sign up is successful, and you can see that we are having the session logged onto the console right here. So now let's go back to our Supabase project and see the user that has been created. Right here in the authentication, you can see we now have a user with this email address. And if we go to the table editor, you can see our awesome users table was also populated with the user's data right here. And so that means we're able to sign up a user and also insert the user's data inside of our custom awesome users table. Now the next thing will be to be able to bring in the push notification functionalities such that whenever a user is inserted inside of this awesome users table, the user gets a push notification that says, welcome to this app. Now, in order to achieve the functionality, the first step is to run a development build that we can use or install on our physical or our real device. And the reason for running a development build is because push notification does not work with the Expo Go app efficiently because of some native packages. And the reason we need to use our real device is that push notification also is not supported fully on simulators. Now what we need to do is to go to Expo Go documentation right here, and we can search for push notification. It's already here. And if you can scroll down here, you see one of the prerequisites is that push notifications are not supported on Android emulators and iOS simulators. A real device is required. And besides that, it's not also supported on Expo Go app fully. So we need to run a development build. So what we can do now is to set up the push notification on our app, and then we run the development build to test out the push notification. Now the first thing we need to do now is to install libraries or packages. So we can copy this one and go back to our VS Code, and I'm going to stop the development server, clear the terminal, and paste the commands here. And while trying to install those packages, we're met with some errors, and it's still about dependency clashes, still the React Native safe area context. So right here, since we installed this 4.00 earlier on and it gave some problems, and then we went to 5.40, which we have currently installed right here. So maybe what we can try is this 3.1.9. So I'm just going to copy that, and then I'm going to clear the terminal and go to the package.json file and find the React Native safe area context and replace it with this one, 3.19, and save. And then delete the node modules again, and then run the npm install. All right, and we're still getting some clashes. So what I'm going to do is change it to 4.00, save, and then delete the modules one more time and run npm install one more time. Yep, this time no errors, so we can clear the terminal, and then we can go copy the package names again. Yep, right here, and then try installing it again. And yes, this time it's installed. So let's go on to the documentation and keep going from there. Now we're just giving this minimal working example, so we can just copy what we have here. And this is the code we have. We have this notifications.set notifications handler, which will help us to set everything about the notification, the push notification. And here we have a function to send push notification with the title of the push notification and the body, that is the message of the push notification. And then we're waiting this fetch to this URL here. And we have the method as post headers as so. And then we're stringifying the message and having it as the body. So this is what we have for the send push notification right here. And we also have a handle registration error to handle any error that might occur. And then we have the register for push notification sync right here, which will check the device. You see right here, it's checking if we're going to be using a real device, because like I said before, expo push notification does not work on simulators. So if you're using a simulator, then it's not going to work properly. So it's going to check, and if you're using a device, then it's going to try this right here, get the expo push notification with this function right here, the notifications.get expo push notification async, and then we're going to return the push notification in this function. So this function, register for push notification async, is returning the push notification string, right? So that's what we have here. So we just copy everything, and scrolling down, we have the app right here, and we're having the use effects right here to register for push notification, and then we're having this JSX right here. So let's just copy everything and we can step it down inside of our VS Code. So right here, what I'm going to do is create a file inside of the lib folder, and I'm just going to call it push notification.ts. I have just pasted some of the codes that will help us to set up the push notification correctly. So we have the notifications, the set notification handler right here, and then we have the send push notification, that is in the case that we want to send a push notification. So, and I changed the title to become welcome to LDIX, and you're going to learn how to be awesome here as the body of the message of the push notification that will be sent to our user. And then we're making a post request right here. And then we're also having this handle registration error to handle any error, like I said before. And then we just have the register for push notification async, which checks the device that we're trying to have a push notification on to see if it's a real device or a simulator. And in the case that it is a real device, then we're going to be able to extract a push token string from expo. As you can see right here, we're returning a push token string. So that's all we're doing in this push notification.ts file, and I'm going to save this one, and then we can go back to our documentation. We can copy this one and then go to our index.tsx, and then we can paste the codes right here. So we need to import the use effect. It's coming from React. We also need to import the register for push notification async, which is a function that we've defined right here. And then we also need to import notifications. I think we already imported the notifications. Okay, not yet imported. So let's go and copy that. And here it is. And then we paste it right here. And then our errors are gone. And then here we need to import use states. I don't think it's been imported. Yep. And now we need to use the expo push token and the notification right here as well. So what we're doing right here is, as soon as our app is loaded, the use effect is going to run, right? And then it runs and calls the register for push notification async, which is a function that we'll define here that is returning this right here, the push token string from expo. So we call the function instead of the use effect, and then set it as the expo push token right here. And then if there's any error, we can also set it here. Okay. And then we're doing some clearing up here after the use effects must have run. And that's just what we're doing. So now we need to see if we get the expo push token and the notification as well by logging some things to the console or displaying it on our app. So what we can do now is to go back to the documentation, and then we can scroll down and copy the JSX right here, displaying the push token and all the other stuffs if we want. So you can just easily copy all that is here and then get back to the index.tsx file, and I'm just going to paste it somewhere here. And then we can import the text from React Native if it's not already imported, and then button from React Native as well, and then send push notification, which is a function we have already defined inside of the push notification.ts file right here. So when we press on that button right there, as we'll see shortly, we want to call on this send push notification function to actually send a push notification to our device, right? So yeah, that's all we have here. And let me see what we have in this. Okay, let's see what it says. Oh, we imported the text before, so I need to delete this one. And what about this one? Multiple times. Okay, let me delete this one and have the text right here and the button as well. Yes, and the errors are gone. So let's save this. Yep, and this is what we have. So what we need to do now is to start our development server. Now I'm going to clear the terminal and then run npm start and clear the cache as well. Good. Now I'm going to reload the app. Okay, and now we run into some errors. And we're still getting this error, which is about the React Native save area context. So that means we need to change that again. Okay, so let's go to our package.json and then go to the React Native save area context and change this from 4.00 to 5.4.0 and save. And then we delete the node module. And of course, let me stop the server and everything and clear out everything and then run npm install. And now we need to clear the terminal and then run npm start. Clear the cache, yes, and then reload our app, yes, and now everything is right here as you can see. But now you see we get this alert that says must use physical device for push notifications, okay, and that's because we're using a simulator still. So I'm just going to click on OK to take away the message. But now we can see that what we have on our index.tsx file is shown here. So we can click on this button to try to send push notification, but in this case nothing is going to happen, especially because we're still running our program on a simulator. We're still running our app on a simulator. Now we need to run a development build, and then we need to be on a physical device in order to see our push notification in action. So in order to start, what I'm going to do is stop the development server, clear the terminal, and then we're going to run a build. Now, how do we run this build? Let's go to the expo dev and see. You can search for EAS build right here. And there are various ways to run a development build, but the best way, and especially the one that suits our use case, is an EAS build. It's going to work firsthand. All right. So we're going to use EAS build, and you can see it's a hosted service for building app binaries for your Expo and React Native projects. So how do we create our first build? I'm going to click here and then we're going to run these commands, log into our Expo account and do all of that stuff. So what I'm going to do is, I think I've already installed the ES CLI already. So you can copy this code and run it in your VS Code terminal if you have not installed ES CLI before. And then I'm going to log in and then run build configure. So let me copy this command, go right here and do ES login to see if I'm logged in already logged in as LDix. So I'm going to paste the command ES build so that our ES projects can be configured for us. Yes, in this case, I just want to configure the build for iOS. If you're using Android, then you can configure for Android, but it is more or less the same thing. And now you can see it says build when you're ready to create a first build. And once the build is completed, run ES submit to upload to app stores and all of that. And if you look here, you can see we now have this es.json file, and it can help us to actually run builds for production, for developments, for preview, and so on and so forth. But in this case, I just want to run for development. So I just want to take these ones out and save this like so. And now let me close some files here. Now that we've done this, let's get back to the documentation to see the next thing that we need to do. So the next step is to install Expo Dev Client if you don't already have it, and then we can run this command. But this one is for Android, and we can change it to iOS since we want to run for iOS. So I'm going to copy this one and then head back to our VS Code, open the terminal, and then I'm going to paste this, but then I'm going to change this for iOS. And I also want to really specify specifically that this is for profile development. So I'm going to come right here and say profile development like so and enter. So it says we want to build a development client build for iOS, but I don't have Expo Dev Client installed, so I need to install that. Yes, so give it some time to install the client, but it seems we run into some errors. Let's see why that is so. Okay, it's still about this save area context. Oh, this is actually funny because this particular package has given us a lot of problems. But yeah, we can just keep changing the packages to suit whatever next package that we want to install and is clashing with it. All right, so it needs the one that is 4.000. All right, so what I'm going to do is just copy this version and head back again to the package.json and change the version here, and then save, and then clear the terminal, and then delete the node modules folder, and then run npm install. Hopefully there won't be any errors. Okay, no errors. And then let's copy the command to install the expo dev client. It's right here at the top, and then we can paste that here. Hopefully this time it should be installed successfully. Yes, it does. And I clear the terminal again, and now this time I can run the command to build our iOS right here and enter. Yeah, what would you like your iOS bundle identifier to be? Yeah, just the default one. An iOS app only uses standard exempt encryption. Learn more. Okay, let's skip. Yes, so it needs me to log into my Apple account. Usually when you're trying to run a build and you're choosing the iOS, normally it would require you to have an Apple developer account. Okay, so you should pay attention to that. Sometimes they say it's optional, like it's written right here, but if you don't have an Apple developer account, like the paid one, it doesn't really work. And I'm going to click on yes to use this one, and it's logging me in. Yeah, you can see this is my company. Okay, let's go on. Yes, and now it's asking me to select devices for the ad hoc build, and this is my iPhone, my physical device that I've registered before. So I'm going to select that one. If you don't have a device registered before, it's going to ask you to register a new device. Yes, and now we're getting that all credentials are ready to build, and we can continue. And it says, would you like to set up push notifications for your project? And definitely here we have to say yes. Our build is queued up. Now I want to draw your attention to the code that we have right here instead of our index. Now I want to be able to change this code a bit so that after we registered for the push notification and obtained the expo push token, then we want to get that token and save it in the database. And based on that, we're going to be able to finish the setup for our push notification. So right here, when we get that expo push token string after registering the push notification, we're now setting expo push token right here, right? But we don't want to do that anymore. Instead, we want to get that token string and save it to our awesome users database. So this is the code we have now. First of all, we're trying to get a session from supabase.auth.getSession, and Supabase, of course, will be coming from here. And since we are waiting on Supabase, we need to make this function an async function. Yep. And then we're getting this session, right? So if there is any error while trying to get that session, they want to log it to the console, and then we're going to return since there is an error. Otherwise, we are now going to try to upsert the data, the already existing data, inside of the awesome users table. So where the ID is session.user.id, and then the expo push token will be set as token right here. And if there is no error, then we want to use the async storage to set this item, the push token registered, as true. Async storage will be coming from async storage right here. And this data, we can also log it to the console to see what the data looks like. So I can have a console statement right here, like so, and save. Yeah, so first of all, we get the session, the current session, and then if there is any error while trying to get the session, we log into the console and return. Otherwise, we want to hook into the database and we want to update the user's data. We want to set the user's expo push token. And remember, this is inside of use effect, so it's going to run the moment we load the component, right? And then if there is no error, they want to set this push token registered as true. That means before we even try to register for the push notification, we should at least check if we've already gotten the user's push notification before, right? From the async storage. So in order to do that, we can just come up right here, and just before we call the register for push notification async function, we have this code right here where we're checking if this item already exists. Okay, if it's true, right? If it's true, then we want to return. That means there is no need to actually register for the push notification because we already have push notification string already. So since this is an await, that means we need to make this an async. So we can redefine this code like this. We can take all of the code here and put it inside of a separate function. We can call it const register token. It's going to be an async function like this. So within here, we're going to paste all the codes that we just copied, and then we need to call the register token function right here and save. Yep. So this is what we're going to have. So it means that when we reload our app, right now we're no longer using the simulator. So I'm going to bring up my device, but as soon as we load on the app, then this use effect is going to run and try to register the expo push token. And since it's going to be the first time, it's going to register and get the token, and then get the current session right here and get the session, and then make a call to the database and update that user's information. It's going to put the expo push token right there, because with this expo push token string, then we'll be able to send push notification to our own device. That's the reason for having the expo push token string. Okay, so we're going to save this, and in order to be sure of things, let's also check that this is what we have. This is how we've spelled it in the database. So let's go to our Supabase and come here, and you can see we have expo push token. Yep, and that's what we have here, expo push token. So we want to update the user's expo push token, which is currently null. And that's it, and I'm going to save, and then what I'm going to do is to take this away and close the simulator. And just now I can see that we had some errors and the build failed. Okay, so let's see why the build failed. So after a little digging, I found out that the reason this build failed was because of a package called expo image right here. So I'm going to remove this package, and then make sure that you're not using this package anywhere in your folder. So the reason for this could be because of the new package. The latest package is faulty. So you can either downgrade this package to 2.20 or you delete it totally. And then you can get your image from React Native, okay? And then save the file, and then make sure that your image is now going to be coming from React Native, like so. And then I've also structured the index.css file a bit to suit the purpose of this tutorial. So right here, I'm only having the welcome text and then our sign up screen. Now let's go to the Explorer. If you go to the Explorer, we're also making sure that our image is coming from React Native if we're using any image. And then I've also structured the explore.tsx file to only have the codes for the push notification. So after the user must have logged into the app and then sent to the index page, we want to sign the user up right there. And after the user is done signing up, and then the awesome users database will be populated, at which point we can now go to the Explorer tab, and then we have this use effect run, and the use effect runs and we'll register the push token for the user. First of all, we'll check if the user's token has been registered. If it has been registered, as we're storing it in our async storage, then we're just going to return. Otherwise, we're going to call the function register for push notification here. And then right here, we're getting the session. Now we're going to make a call to our database and try to update the user's push token. And then if there is any error, we're going to catch the error here. And then we're calling the function. So that's what we're doing on our Explore. And then for the JSX, we can just display this text here and the user's push token as well. And then we can display the title and the body of the push notification as well. So what I'm going to do now is try to run the build again so we can test it on our real device. And I'm going to run this command. I'm going to give it some time to be able to run. Yes, log into my Apple account. All credentials are ready to build, and push notification setup for Awesome Edge is also ready. So let's wait for the build to complete. Yep, so the build is ready. So we can scan this code with our physical device and then open up the application. And if we also visit our Expo dashboard right here and go to Expo, Awesome Edge, yep, you can see that build right here. Click into it. And we can also try to install it by scanning this code as well. So now what I'm going to do now before I try to scan this code is to open up another terminal and start this project by running npm start and clear the cache just in case there is anything to clear. And yes, and this is using a development build, no longer with Expo Go. So let me come back here and then get my device and scan this code. And now we can see that the Awesome Edge application is installing. So let's give it some time. Yep, and we can open the application. All right, let's go to the development server. We can also try to enter the link manually if it doesn't open. So we can copy this link right here and paste it in manually if the app doesn't open. So let me do that and then try to connect. And yes, iOS bundle, and then our app is open. So right here on the home, let's try to sign up a user. And before then, what I'm going to do is bring my VS Code side by side right here. And then also I'm going to check our Supabase dashboard to make sure there is no user currently. Go to the Supabase dashboard. Yes, we have this user from before. So what I'm going to do is delete the user and then check our awesome users table. There should be no user. Yes. So now let's try to sign up. Yes, sign up is successful. And as you can see, we're getting this session right here in the console. And we have also stored this session in our async storage. All right, so we click on OK. And now let's go to the Explore tab to actually get our push notification registered for this device. So let's see what we're having here in the Explore tab. So we're trying to register the device, and there seems to be no log to the console because we're expected to offset the user's data right here. So let's check our Supabase dashboard, and right here we have the user in the awesome users table, but we don't have the expo push token for this user. All right, so right here we are returning if the push token for the user has been registered before. So what I'm going to do is actually try to log that to the console to see if we already registered it. So right here I'm going to do a console.log statement and save, and then open up the terminal, and you can see right here we're getting true. So that's why we did not even register for the push notification, because this returned true. So now what I'm going to do is take this code away, and then I'm going to comment this one and this one as well, and also comment this code, because what we want to do is just to clear the async storage for this push token registered, and then save, and then open up the terminal, and then I'm going to reload. Yes, so we've reloaded our application, and then I'm going to go back to our Supabase project and then remove the user we just created. Right here, let's go to the authentication and remove the user so that it can remove the user from awesome users database automatically. And if it doesn't, then we can also delete this as well. Yep, good. Now let's come back to our code, and then we're going to delete this one now, and then uncomment our codes right here and save. Yep, so now let's try to sign up the user one more time. Sign up. Successful. And let's check our terminal to see if we get this session. Yes, once again we get this session. So if we go to our Supabase project and refresh, yes, we get the user right here, and let's go to the table editor. We should also get the user. Okay, now but the expo push token is not there yet. So now what we need to do is go to the Explore tab so that the user's push notification will be registered. And yes, and you can see right here now we're having the offsetted user, and we also have the expo push token right here for the user. So that means we can begin to enable the function for push notification. And when we click on the press to send push notification, you see right here we get the notification at the top, right? And the body of the push notification is coming right from here, where we're saying welcome to LDIX, and you're going to learn to be awesome here. So let's try that again. Yes, and we get that push notification one more time. So it means that our push notification is working, right? And of course, to confirm things, if we go to the database now, good. So now we're just pressing here to receive the push notification, but what we want to be able to do is to have this push notification sent automatically to our device whenever there is an input to the awesome users table, or there is some sort of update, and so on and so forth. So what we need to do now is use edge functions and webhook to set this up. And now what we need to do is go right here and go to edge functions, and we can click here to deploy a new function, and we can click right here to deploy a new function via the editor. And you can see we already have this boilerplate code, just a very simple edge function. And edge function in Supabase is usually served up with Dino. Dino is a runtime for TypeScript and JavaScript as well, and it's very secure. And I can even come right here and ask the assistant, the AI assistant on Supabase, to even spin up an edge function to execute this sort of feature for us on our application. AI can really guide you and help you to write code faster. So it can show you some code, and then you can adjust the code as you deem fit. So I've asked the AI assistant to generate an edge function that sends push notifications to my app when a user is inserted in awesome users table. So let's see what it does for us. And right here you can see the edge function that it generates for us. And what I'm going to do in order to make this faster is to actually paste right here a modified version of that edge function right here. So what we're doing here is we're getting a request, and this request actually is coming from the webhook that we're going to set up in a moment. And that webhook is based on our awesome users table. So the request essentially is coming from our awesome users table. And right here, we're making a call to Supabase client to set things up. And then we're having this payload. The payload is coming from request.json. And like I said, this payload is really just coming from the awesome users database based on the webhook that we're going to be setting up very soon. So when the request comes in, we want to fetch the expo push token, where that expo push token is equal to the expo push token coming from the payload. Remember, the payload can have the payload.expo push token, payload.id, payload.username, payload.email. All right. And then we have this notification body I've written right here to say, nice to have you with LDix, please subscribe to LDix channel, and so on and so forth. And right here, we're now trying to send that push notification, and it's going to be going to the expo push token, data.expo push token. We're getting data from here. So that data is the expo push token. All right. So to expo push token, and the sound is default, and then the body of the push notification will be notification body, just like we have it right here. And then that's it. And then we're returning the response.json. Okay. We're also logging the response to the console, and then we're also logging this one if something went wrong. And that's just what we're doing here. So let me deploy this function, and let's rename it to awesome notification save changes. Good. And now let's go to our database and go to the webhooks right here. And then we can create a new webhook. Click here and then create a new hook. So the name of this webhook can be anything we want. I can just say awesome. And then for the table, it's going to be listening on the awesome users table right here. So, and it's when we have an insert. So we just want to enable insert. Whenever there is an insertion into the awesome users table, then we want to fire this webhook, and then it's going to call the edge function. And the edge function will now send the push notification. So that's what we're doing essentially. And then the type will be Supabase edge function, not the HTTP request. And method is post. And we're going to select the awesome notifications function that we just defined. And we can make this one 2000 milliseconds. And then we can add this authorization and create webhook. Yep. So our awesome webhook has been created, and remember, it's listening for an insert on the awesome users table, at which point it's going to go off and then call the edge function to send the push notification. And right now, let's go back to our edge function and go to our awesome notification edge function, go to the code, and right here we're checking this bearer right here, the expo access token 1. So this usually will be in the secrets. You can see we have expo access token 1. So make sure you generate this and put right here, otherwise you have an error. And for you to generate it, you can go to the Supabase right here and click on the awesome edge application and go to credentials, or maybe the environment variables. We can go to LDix and then go to access tokens. And right here you can see I have 2 access tokens. So make sure that at least one is available in the Supabase dashboard so that it can authorize the sending of push token as well. So you can copy this. I've already copied it and pasted it in my Supabase project. So make sure you create one if you don't have one by clicking on this create token and name it whatever you want. And then you go to the Supabase and go under the secrets, and then make sure you have a name right here, and you can create and you can name it what you want and paste in and then save. So I've saved mine as expo access token, and that's what I've used in the code right here. Okay, so we deploy this update, and now I'm going to go back to the webhooks. Right now, our webhook is listening for an insert in the awesome users table, but I also want to listen for updates as well. So I can click on edit and include update, And the reason is because we have already inserted a user. We've created a user, and the user was inserted into the awesome users table. And that comes with registering the expo push token for that device or for that user. And we've done that before. So if we delete the user from the database and from the user table and try to do that again, that means we have to go through the process of clearing the async storage of any token that have been stored before, so that the fresh one can be stored. So I don't want to do that again. I'm just going to enable update to test out the edge function. So I'm going to click on update. And now if I go to the table editor and then come right here and change the username to Eldix and save, we should get a push notification. Yes, we get the push notification that says, nice to have you with Eldix. Please subscribe to Eldix channel YouTube. So that means our push notification is working. And if we change this one more time to Eldix YouTube and enter, then after some seconds, yes, we get the push notification as so. So yeah, that's it for this video. I hope you've understood how to do the push notification with Supabase using the Supabase edge function and webhooks. Thank you. That's it for this tutorial, and see you next time.